subject of our discussion this evening is India and Pakistan and whether we can have permanent peace or something that passes for permanent peace in our bilateral relationship. It's been so up and down these last few years, and you've been really at the center of it very often. What is your sort of mantra for this?
Mantra, I don't know, but you're right. For me, really, relations with Pakistan are one of very few major failures in our foreign policy. Because if you look at the state of our relationship, I don't think anybody is happy with this relationship the way it is. And we've both paid huge costs for this. Pakistan very directly in terms of stunted, political, economic, social development. And us as well. For us, more in terms of lost opportunities, of roads not taken, of things that could have been. So, and we've fallen into this horrible pattern where we start talks, and whatever name you call it, we know what kind of talks. You call it composite dialogue or anything, we have the same agenda. We take small steps together. There's tremendous popular enthusiasm. And then there's a huge disruption, an attack, maybe like Kargil, or a terrorist incident, and then everything goes right back. Then you start all over again. And this is a pattern which we have repeated since Simla, if you look at it.
Right.
With Vajpayee's visit in 1999, you look at Rajiv Gandhi's 88. I mean, it's just, and I think it doesn't have to be like this. And I think we proved it doesn't have to be like this between 2004 and 2007 with Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, when we, I think, actually came closest to dealing with the issues.
Are you talking about the back channel resolution on Kashmir?
It's not just the back channel. It's the whole range of issues that we addressed and that we were willing to deal with on both sides. Both sides showed that. So what stops us? Why are we in this peculiar dance, this pattern? In each case, it's our domestic politics on both sides. I mean, let's be honest.
Hussain, I'd like to start by asking you, this morning in Islamabad, the Islamabad High Court has released or given the orders to release Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi, the main accused in the Mumbai trials, in the Mumbai terror attacks, and which took place in 2008. Now, what is the matter with Pakistan that here is a man who is a chief accused in a terror attack in India, in Mumbai, and it's been 7 years, and there has been absolutely no movement. Not only has there been no movement, but the Pakistan justice system refuses to take any action against him.
Jyoti, it's a reflection of the domestic politics of Pakistan, but more than that, it's a reflection of what I have been very critical of, which is an ideological predisposition in Pakistan. Mr. Menon spoke about the mindset on both sides. I personally feel that the problem in India-Pakistan relations consistently has been that there has been a preoccupation with the breakup that we had in 1947, out of which Pakistan came out. Our two countries have a shared past, and I have no doubt whatsoever that we have a shared future. We only have a problem in dealing with that troubled present, and we've had that problem for 67 years. And the reason why
So you're saying that India hasn't come to terms with an independent Pakistan?
I'm not saying that at all. Actually, I'm one of those who believes that the Indians have come to terms with an independent Pakistan, but they have failed to convince sufficient numbers of Pakistanis that they have come to terms with Pakistan, and that their regret about partition does not extend to wanting to undo it. Now, that said,
let me just interrupt you.
No, let me complete my thought. That has fed a mindset in Pakistan, very early in Pakistan's history, as early as March 1948, one of our very visionary leaders, Hussain Shahid Suhrawardi, who came from Bengal, he said something very interesting. In March 1948, he said, Pakistan has been created on the slogan of Islam in danger. Let us not now try to keep it or maintain it with the slogan of Pakistan in danger. But unfortunately, that's exactly what was done. So we have an ideological attitude in Pakistan, And in case of India, sometimes it's indifference, sometimes it's just arrogance, with all due respect, sometimes it's just anger. You are unable to convince enough Pakistanis that all we want is a good neighborly relationship.
But Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee came to Lahore in 1999.
Sure.
And
even
went
before
to
that,
went to the Minar-e-Pakistan.
Let me tell you, even long before that, Jawaharlal Nehru made a speech at the Aligarh Muslim University in early 1948 and said, we would not have accepted the idea of Pakistan if we did not want to be good friends with it. So I know that history. You know, I'm somebody who articulates that history to my countrymen. What I'm saying is that your leaders have failed to convince people in sufficient numbers. And our leaders have deliberately kept that ideology alive. So, for example, when people in Pakistan say, I've always said that we need to move beyond Kashmir to be able to have good relations, I'm told, no. Pakistan is incomplete without Kashmir. And I jokingly turn around and say, well, if we can live for 67 years without being complete, surely we can live another 67 years without being complete. Let's move on. Let's move forward. But if you see history, neighbors eventually come to terms with one another. Either you go the difficult route, Germany and France, from the 16th century all the way to the 20th century, middle of the 20th century, they fought many wars, and after many conflicts, they reached the conclusion that at the end of the day, we should have an arrangement in which we have free borders, where people move back and forth easily. Or you can have the easier route, Canada and the United States, who understood very early on that there was no need to compete. Pakistan, whatever we try to do, we will never be as big as India. And India will not be able to be, India is making considerable progress, many of us admire it, but India will never be fully comfortable without having a permanent peace with its neighbor.
Our fate today depends on the rest of the world much more than it ever did before.
Sure.
You look at our GDP, you look at the proportion of what we want a bigger role in the world, it makes sense to have a better relationship with our neighbor. You have to have a peaceful periphery if you want to develop, transform India, do the things that interest us. I'm not arguing against that at all, but I'm just saying that the constituency for that today has shrunk. So when you say Indian leaders must go and convey, Indian leaders are democratically elected. They will convey what they feel. Luckily, I think we have a generation. I was born after partition independence. You have a whole generation of Indians who have moved on, who are willing to look at it rationally. And I think we need to put the rational argument to them rather than the ideological argument.
But if much of India has moved on, Ambassador Menon, the fact is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, barely 6 months ago, cancelled the foreign secretary level talks with Pakistan. Now, we didn't really get an answer to why that happened. And we restarted that 10 days ago.
We're back at that tentative start of talks, that phase of the cycle.
So when you're saying that the rest of India is moving on, we have a very young population, India is looking outside and elsewhere,
each wave,
you're still obsessed with Pakistan.
You're not obsessed anymore. That's the whole point. That what we used to, each wave used to arouse tremendous popular enthusiasm. And you saw it in not just the media and schools. I remember in December 2004, we issued something like 30,000 visas to Pakistani school children to visit India during the holidays.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure that today, even if you tried to do this, parents would think 3 times about sending their children across that border.
And by the way, I wouldn't blame them. I mean, on this one, I'm on your side, because if our courts take the attitude that they have done, letting people like Lakhvi off, while they continue to pursue vendettas against people like me, so I am certainly on your side on this argument, that there are actions that are taking place that do create resentment. The India-Pakistan relationship will need to be looked at in the longer-term perspective. And the longer-term perspective is, how is Pakistan dealing with its own identity? Pakistan is seen by a lot of countries in the world as a dysfunctional state. Our military has been disproportionately powerful in our politics.
Can I bring you to today's Pakistan? I know that you have written a lot about this. But in the light of the coup, in the light of the attacks in Peshawar, do you think that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is much more weakened? And
I think Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is allowing the Pakistan Army Chief to go and conduct talks with the Afghan President and Chief Executive. I don't think it's the place of the Army Chief to be negotiating with foreign powers. I think the Army Chief should be responsible to the Prime Minister, and that by doing that, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has essentially indicated that the real power center in Pakistan is not in Islamabad, where Parliament is located, but in Rawalpindi, where the general headquarters are located. And as a Pakistani, I don't like that. I want my government to be run according to my country's constitution, which authorizes the elected leaders to make decisions about our country's foreign relations, including relations.